Okay, well, we already having a good conversation. I want to welcome everybody to what we are calling, it's something new here at St. John, and it's called CHRISTalk. And really what it is that we as brothers, Christian brothers, find ourselves in situations where we're always having these conversations. We're talking about the challenges of being a Christian black man in this culture that seems to almost be shifting slowly but surely towards being more of an almost anti-Christian culture. And it's making it tough for us because us that are here at the church doing the work of the Lord, I mean, it's not like it was when we were all kids.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's why we're doing things like what we have here, CHRISTalk, and bringing in our Unplugged Sunday, which is, of course, all about unplugging tradition, just having a really more free worship experience geared towards young people, and young people being my age and younger. No, I'm just playing.
How old is that?
Yeah, I mean, in the church they love to move the age bracket.
Man, that young adult done moved so many times.
I remember when it was 30, it was like 30, it was like 18 to 30 was young adult. Then it went 18 to 30, 35. Then it went to 18 to 40. Now I'm here at 18 to 45. 40 is the new 30. And so but really for me it's just about how you feel is really what you are. I feel like I'm a young person still,
Like
so
that. How you feel is how you really are.
yeah, and so we're just having this just open dialogue conversation. We have here brother Irvie Rollins Jr. We have here Minister Kevin Craddock. We have our sound guy who never gets on this platform to do anything, and that's our very own Ryan Thompson, who has been here since he was a little guy. And then we have, this guy over here is just, I don't know what to say about him other than he was my teacher as a teen, and he kept it too real with us back then.
When he felt young.
Yeah, but he's still very young. If you hear him talking, we have here Minister Marlon Brown with us, and we're just having this conversation, and we're talking about different things going on. Right now, when I think of young people, I think about all the things I hear like some of my peers say about the church. Like I've heard let's think about some things that we've heard our peers say, young people in particular say about the church, especially right now. Like I've heard it, that's where the squares go. The church is too much tradition there. I can't go there. They'll say, it's a cult. I heard that one recently. It's a cult,
The white man's religion. That's all they say that. All the time.
Yeah.
All the time.
Mm-hmm. I heard, I don't need to go to church to be a Christian. That's the one I hear a lot too. And I've kind of battled on how to even respond to that at times. So that's a question for you, Minister Marlon. Like, how should we approach? We're just throwing off topics, but I'm gonna just ask you right off the bat because we got two preachers here, and then they call me an unofficial preacher, I guess.
Don't do no hooping and hollering now.
Yeah, And so, Minister Marlon, so when we have these situations where we're hanging out with our boys, and we're just out. And we talk about church, and then they'll hit you with I don't need to go to church. I'm still Christian. I'm still going to heaven. I don't need to go to church. Like, how do we approach that? How do we respond to that? Because they're basically saying, I'm not coming to church if I invite them. And so I'm just trying to figure out the better methods. Like, what's some ways to deal with these situations?
Well, a good example when we were talking about sports earlier.
Right.
A lot of us play sports, but when we got older, we don't have that camaraderie again. That's why we like to watch the NFL, the NBA, and the Bible says iron sharpens iron. So what happens is a lot of times us as black men, we're on an island all by ourselves, and we don't get any type of wisdom, and we only get wisdom from people on our own level. So we don't bridge the gap between the old and the young. So what happens is that when we were talking about earlier is that we don't feel the connection with the church anymore. We don't feel like we have a place in the church. And so it was funny, I was reading my daily devotion, was talking about how Joseph, and remember, Irvie, you're talking about your pilot. And the young men today, basically what happened is we don't have big dreams no more. We think small. All we think about is being on the corner, hanging out. But we have to understand Joseph, he found himself in the pit, he found himself in prison, and he found himself in the palace. But he had a dream at 17 years old. But it took him 13 years before his dream came true. And I think that's the problem with us, especially young black men. We want the instant satisfaction. We want the instant gratification. We don't anything short term. And so when we come to the church, a lot of times they feel like it's not for men, or men don't have a place, or it's not friendly for men. You know, and especially growing up in church, remember, we can get the babies to sing in the children's choir, but when they get to a certain age, the teenagers, it's not cool anymore to be in church.
Right.
That's when they fall off by the wayside. So there's a stigma with the church, but us being strong black men, we can pull men in by letting our light shine in our character. So it's for us to see the benefit. You know, we talked about Ryan. Ryan found his wife in church.
Sure did.
You see, that's a blessing. There's so many benefits. You talked about Sunday school.
Right.
All the ones that I taught in Sunday school went to college. That's the pipeline to college with those that I look back when I started, and I'm a product of Sunday school and went to college. So I'm saying we need to show the benefits in our own life, how we were blessed by church.
No, I agree.
I also believe that it's our approach too. It's how we treat the situation at hand, understanding that I was a person that was like, oh, you don't want to go to church? Oh, okay. And I'll be like offended. And you know, like, because it's like you saying something about me and my God by saying, you know, making faces when you say nah, or you could have just been like, oh, I can't make it. Why I got to be like, what? You know, that and I began to see that my approach was off. My approach was off, and I taught recently about how in Luke, when they brought that man to Jesus and they lowered him down through that roof, it was so much care taken for the man to get him there. They didn't drag him on. He was on the cot. He couldn't move. They literally picked him up and they carried him. They took care of him. And we don't know how far they came from. We don't know how long it took them, but they were all determined to care for him enough to get him there. Man, I used to be quick. Okay, cool, whatever. Go on. I don't know how, you know, and I began to adjust my approach. You know, well, I'm here if you need me. I'm here if you need me. Because then when you need me, where you at? Oh, I'm at the church.
At 11 o'clock on Sunday.
You know, but it's our approach. Sometimes our approach is so quick to let go of people. And especially as black men, we're so quick to let go of people. You know, and it's because, hey, well, I got to care about myself. I got to take care of myself. I got my own problems, my own issues. And that's the thing, even in the story, we know the men that carried him had their own problems, had their own issues, but it didn't stop them from picking up what he was going through and taking their time. And even when they got to Jesus and the ushers stopped them at the door, I said, that had to be the ushers. There ain't enough room for you. Because the Bible lets us know that Jesus was in there and the power to heal was upon him, but nobody was being healed. So here came this man who needed to be healed, but then you didn't let him in the door. They didn't give up. They literally took him, carried him higher so that he could took the roof off, and then lowered him down. And that's what so much care was taken. So much care. They didn't throw him through the roof. It says they began to lower him through the roof. And that's, we really have to analyze how we're caring for one another, especially when it comes to black men. Just because they said they don't want to come and you see how they living and you just feel, okay, live how you living. Man, there's a time when we all were living wrong. There's still times when we all live wrong. I was driving here. You get on the road and it's a test of how you living for sure. and the thing about in God's eyes is that what you felt and what you said in your head was just as bad as how they living. And we have to remember that and take our time with people, especially our own.
Indeed. I mean, yeah, it's very important. So, I mean, you have anything you want to add on that topic?
Well, I mean, it's hard to come up behind these two great preachers.
Yeah, I think they said it best.
One thing I would say this: I'm 28 now, so and I was practically born at the altar. I grew up in a little small church on the hill over there, and I can honestly say I went to school out here and everything, but everybody who I encountered from my partners, they know on Sunday, Irving in church. He in church, and they know I listen to their music. I'll be real, I listen to our music, but then I'll play some gospel quick. One of my partners said, man, I like that. But, but see, that's the seed. And sometimes, one of my partners called me like a couple of months ago, and it shocked me. He said, man, I prayed to God last night. Because, I mean, I'm no better, and you know better, And at the end of the day, I'm just trying to help you out, just like I need your help, Right. So I mean, in my eyes, I'm not about to try to, because I go to church, think I'm the saint, because I'm very far from perfect. You very far from perfect too, but together we can work on being, perfect.
Right. So let me ask you. We're talking about balance. I'm amazed with what this dude does because he can be flying. On his airline, because he's a pilot, everybody, like a real pilot. And he can, he'll be here playing music with us, an organist as well, y'all. He's very gifted. But then next morning, he can be flying somewhere else. And sometimes he's not even out flying on the job. You're just taking a trip because you have those good flight benefits. Yeah. Out of nowhere, he'll tell me, oh, I'm in Miami, or oh, I'm in other cities, LA or wherever, just doing whatever. And I'm just amazed with how you're able to balance that off. How I mean, you have any thoughts on that?
You know what? To be real with you, I was always taught growing up on Sundays you're gonna be in church. My dad didn't play that. My granny didn't play that. On Sunday you're gonna be in church. And now that I'm working in the aviation industry, it is really rare to be new at my job, and I'm getting Sundays off. No, I'm getting Sundays off. My seniority is at the bottom. All these other pilots ahead of me. Sunday, that's a weekend. Right. They want that off. And I literally sat and told my chief pilot, I hope you don't see this, but I told him, I said, I said, I need Sundays off. And they said, why? I got to be at church. He's talking about a balance, If you take care of God's house, he will take care of your house.
All right.
That's right. And I'm a witness to that because, like, what I'm doing now, this has been like a dream since like he said, a dream. I'm really a dream, meaning that I can't attain it. I'm from Richmond. Right. Not saying being from Richmond, but it's like I didn't see that. Right. I didn't see that growing up. But again, you take care of God's house, he will take care of your house. I mean, it's weird how I went with no employment for 2 years. I mean, to be honest with you, I only had, compensation from the church. You know what I mean?
Playing the organ,
right. I hate to say it like that, but that's real. And it was good money, but it wasn't what I was doing before. But going from there to this to achieve your dream, and then now I'm here now. God gets all the glory. I tell people all my partners, that man, God first, and then we can go fly second.
See, right. I mean, he's keeping it 100 even with his boys.
I mean, they know. I mean, at the end of the day, you can't have too much positives and you can't have too much negatives. Like he said, you got to have a balance. I mean, so outside of doing this, I like to go do what I like to do. I love to travel. I love to be in the sky. But at the end of the day, I make time for things I need to make time to do and worship God in church. I'm gonna be here on Sunday if I could.
Yeah, and that's real. I mean, all the things I do, I know I need to be here on Sunday. That just comes from growing up. The parents instilling that in us,
And the thing too is, once you build that relationship for yourself, you require accountability out of yourself. Exactly. And that's, I mean, I would be traveling, I would be in Europe, and on Sunday I'll have a race that day, and I'll be, where Kevin at? I ran to the church down the corner because, I'm going to at least get communion up in there and say my prayers and sit for a second in peace with God. because I'm holding myself accountable. Like no matter where I am, he's just not the God of my church in California. He's God everywhere. And the balance issue is it's funny because when God is God in your life, balance is there.
Yeah.
Balance is there. It's you hold yourself accountable. You're responsible and for your relationship with him first and foremost, and then balance is there. Our theme scripture at our church for the year is Psalm 1:1-3. But that I zone in so much on his delight is in the law of the Lord, and in that law, in that word, does he meditate day and night, meaning continually keeping communication and conversation open with God, because that is the existence of his power, of his love, of his grace continually being in your life. And then verse 1 handles itself. Then you won't walk in the counsel of the ungodly. Then you won't sit in the seat of the scornful. Then you won't walk in the way of the sinner. It handles itself when God is God in your life. And Sundays are easy. Like Sundays are joyful. These are the days I look forward to, no matter where I am. And I look forward to Sundays. People wake up, oh, it's church. No, what? Nah, it's church. Like, hey, man, I'm about to go down here and not only worship, but fellowship and find like-minded people who have goals, who are chasing dreams, not by themselves, but with God.
See,
with God.
Kevin and I, we talk about this all the time. The church, really, we come in on Sunday, we worship and we praise God. But really, if you look at this building right here, this place probably can hold around 800 people, right? But you have lawyers, you have doctors, you have, people who who can help you to get to where you want to be. Right. It's really like a big old family, And I was in New York. My last trip with my previous job, I was in New York. The weather was bad. We couldn't fly. And I'm with a Caucasian guy. My co-pilot was, he's Caucasian. And he said, it was a Sunday. He said, what are you doing today? I said, I'm going to church. And no, literally, just true story. And I took him to an apostolic church because I knew the church I wanted to go to, right? And he walked in. I'm gonna be so he walked in, and I told him, I said, now this is my type of church, because he was a PK, and he was a PK in a different, in the CCM type of world. But I said, this is my type of church. So I took him in there, and the thing is, he said, Irby, I love it. Yeah. He said, I love it. And we was in there for 4 hours.
Wow.
And he said, and when it was time to go, he said, I don't want to leave. Yeah. But I said, at that point, I know I'm doing my job because he saw something in me to bring him to the church.
Wow. Right. Yeah. That's quite interesting. Quite interesting. And that just now that shifts me to another question. When I look at Ryan over here, right? He's married. Got married a couple months ago.
Yes, sir.
Congratulations.
Newlywed. Got a good job. Where do you work, sir? What's your job? What do you do outside of here?
Well, I am a distribution designer, mostly just doing work for PG&E and, keeping the distribution poles outside, keeping them up to date.
Mm-hmm. See that? He's got a good job.
It was because of you we had those power outages, right?
Ain't because of me. It's not because of me.
And so when I think about Ryan, this guy's been here since day one, and I think he agree with me, in sitting here and being in this church for so long. You see people come, you see people go. People that we've grown up with are no longer here. But then you got the few like ourselves, and he stands out to me as one of those that, despite what is going on in the world, what's going on in the church, whatever, he is still here at the church that he was. He's been here since he was a little kid. So what's the drive? What's the mindset behind it that drives you to stay so committed to a church such as St. John, when there's obviously other opportunities, other churches you can go to, or there's lots of different ministries you can be a part of, but what has driven you to want to stay committed to St. John?
Man, Kev, that's a good question. I probably asked myself that maybe about, I would say, just all throughout the year, but I would just honestly say God. you know, I remember when, you know, I basically was born in this church, been coming to this church ever since I was out the womb, pretty much. But I remember when I first started, you know, getting involved with the AV ministry. And then I remember when I moved up and I started doing sound. And, you know, when you just come into church and when you just a pew member, you know, you basically you get up and you like, I gotta go to church, or you basically dragging yourself to church. But when you actually have a, you know, an obligation to do at your church, you know, like I was saying, when I first started doing sound, you know, they was telling me, you know, hey, make sure you're here at, you know, every single service. So we had a 7 o'clock service.
Right, them 7 o'clock
So I'm
service.
like, man, you know, I'm so used to dragging and complaining. But now I got this 7 a.m. service that I got to go to. You know, I used to just do 11 o'clock. That was like, man, that was rough for me. And don't let it be daylight savings time where you got to wake up even earlier to make sure you're on time. And, you know, you want to make sure that the
3:30
time.
service.
Easter.
Right. But,
5 o'clock in the morning.
well, you
He got up.
got to get up early. But, I don't know. I can't even answer that. I just got to give it up to God. And, you know, I'm thankful that I'm able to be here, you know, pretty much every Sunday out the year. And sometimes it bothers me when people say, man, we was in church all day, or, oh, I got to go to all 3 services today. Like, man, I do this all day, every Sunday out the year. And then, you know, maybe twice during the week. But I would say it's all God. And secondly, you know, as I started going to, you know, getting involved with, I would say like Sunday school and with Marlon, and start going to like kids church. You know how they would have where the kids would go into a different part. Yeah, and when I started getting involved with the AV ministry and the sound, you know, part of it was, you know, I hate to sound selfish, but it's like, oh, if I'm not there, you know, this is not going to get done. Or if I don't show up, you know, this person's going to have to do double the work. Or, you know, if I start slacking off, you know, the pastor probably give me a call, probably give me a text or something like that. So I've always been determined with everything I do. And I try to aim for the stars always. But, you know, being able to come here and just do what I do every Sunday, it's a blessing, but it's all God.
It's all God. And as you can see, that's an example of someone who is just steady, you know, staying committed to what he's doing. You know, and it's, yeah. Marlon, you can tell us too. Minister Marlon, excuse me. I'm going to, well, whatever way you, yeah.
I wasn't Minister Marlon when we first met.
Oh,
we okay.
See?
We okay.
Yeah.
We okay.
So tell me, you know, you're another example of that, where you've been at this church since how long?
All my life. I don't know any
Like
other
literally.
church. I was
Wow.
talking to somebody literally yesterday how we used to have a soda machine where the water fountain is right there.
I remember that.
And the soda machine would go off. Somebody would get a soda while the pastor was preaching at the time. I remember being in the church and being in church so long where my mom would put jelly beans in my mouth on the
Wow.
Easter service,
Yep.
how long I was in the church.
Man.
And I mean, just to see Ryan and others. But what I'm looking at is how the progression,
Yeah.
how I used to sit back in the church right there when we had a clock. You remember we had a clock way in the back?
Yeah.
And I went from the last pew to the pulpit. But it's by being faithful,
Wow.
by staying committed. And it's funny because Ryan can attest to it this. A lot of times the older saints saw in us what we didn't see. And that's
They
why
sure
I
did.
challenge you. And I'm going to ask you a question.
Here we go. Yep. Go ahead, sir.
That's real.
As a PK,
Yep.
I was thinking the exact
Okay.
same. Go here. Eat 'em,
how
eat
have
'em.
you maneuvered and found your own lane and your own identity, knowing that you've had the pressure, knowing that your father is a pastor and your grandfather pastor, and people automatically say you're next in line. And just growing up, having that over you.
Yep. Yep.
So would you like to shed light on that?
Thank you. And that's been a lifelong challenge. You know how it goes too. it really, I've always had that rebel mindset. Like, I did not want to, one, because I've seen the church. The church is a great place. But when you're part of a pastor's family, you don't always see the it's not all glitz and glamour. There are some things that go down that people do to pastors and the family that is just unbelievably not fair. And so I've always had that rebel mindset. I said, I'm not going to be a preacher. God is really going to have to call me for real, for real.
All right, Jonah.
He's all right, Jonah.
Don't find yourself.
And so I just try to keep an edge. Yes, I was born in a church, sat through many revivals all my life, but I don't even know how to play it or how to say it, but I will say this: if I'm called to preach, you guys will know it.
All right.
Why? Because you can see how long I went without going that route. I could have, even though I don't believe I'm there, but I could have easily said I was called probably 15 years ago. And I didn't heard how to hoop, so I know how to hoop. Just because
Hoop right now. Give us a hoop.
I know what to do, because I've seen it, I hear it, So you got a lot of that. You got a lot of ministers out there. They're just doing it because they were told that's what they need to do, because their dad did it, their grandfather did it, and they, they know how to do it. But I don't believe that a lot of these preachers are even called. But I think they're just acting because they just know how to do it. But back to the point, as far as maneuvering, I just try to be different, man. I try to be different. I try to not be so traditional. That's why we're doing this Unplugged.
That kind of goes back to the first question you asked, and being different.
Yeah.
The first question you asked, how do you get your partners basically to come in church? You different.
Yeah.
They're not looking for the suits. They're not looking for the mothers with the white hats and things. I mean, that's what I grew up on. But now, I mean, they looking for people to dress like this and be relaxed. Because at the end of the day, let you know that even though we different, we all the same. We still got the same red blood.
We're normal people.
Exactly.
That's what you see in looking at this, us up here. We're normal people. And that's the point I want to get across in this. I don't know, this may be the beginning of more of these conversations through Christ Talk, but we really want to let people know, young people, we're normal people. This guy has a good time on Saturdays and Friday nights. He's still looking for a woman. So, ladies, he's single still, but he's out there moving.
He can fly a plane.
Yeah, he's flying planes. Benefits. And so but this man is here right now, doing the Lord's work. None of us have to be here, and that's. We can go on about this. We can talk on and on for for probably another hour. But the whole point is just getting people to see a little bit into the lives of people like us who are working and serving in the Lord. You got a musician who's a pilot. You have a pastor who was a top Olympic level track star back in the day. You got this man over here who's now married, has a great job with PG&E.
Amen.
Yeah, but he's here. He's here serving, staying in his lane, doing what he can for the Lord. You got this brother over here. He's a minister, and he's doing great things. And
then you got him. All this stuff behind the scenes, I wish y'all can see, but this guy here, he's nonprofit organizations. Be real with you. I have a separate group chat, with my fellas, and he in it, and it's weird. Even though we all go to church together, we talk about men things, we talk about life, and I think you the oldest in the chat.
Yeah,
but,
I am.
You the oldest in the chat, but be real with you, we all look up together. Like we call him Big Bro. I didn't hit him off so many times offline about personal stuff. He there, So you need this. This is what the church is about. You need the brotherhood, the fellowship, and things like that.
Yeah,
It's the bridge. It's the bridge, and it's one of the reasons why God didn't just come down here and walk by himself. He wrapped himself in flesh, and then when it came time to get to that area in his life, which the I mean, hey, the heaviness was on him, not just when he got to the cross, but when he turned to go into that ministerial position. That's why he called guys to have around him. And if you pay attention, he didn't call the same type out of all of them. You know, he had fishermen, he had tax collectors, he had a healer, you know, and he had a treasurer who would betray him, yet he still knew that, understood it, and he knew that they all combined were to get him to that area, to that pinnacle, so that he can handle the greatest thing that he was ever supposed to do in his life. And he's our example. And that's how we have to be. Man, everybody shouldn't look like you in your group. Everybody shouldn't be your age in your group. There should be flexibility. There should be a wide spread of people around you to help you. Not a lot of them, a wide spread. Because you see, he picked 12, and then out of that 12, there were breakdowns. Everybody didn't get that close to him. And then even out of the inner circle that he had, we start to see that there was nobody like Peter and John. And then as much as we talk about Peter, there was nobody like John, because John was the only one who he consistently had laying on him, laying in his bosom. And they described John as the disciple whom he loved. And it's so even then there were people who got closer and closer and closer to him. Even in our lives, that's how it has to be. That's how it has to be. You can't just roll with yourself, or you trust yourself. Like, man, come on. you gonna make the same exact mistakes in a bigger group. That's it. You know?
I agree. Well, listen, I thank you, brothers, for just taking the time to just have this chat. It could have went a lot longer, and maybe next time we do this, we'll make sure we can just keep going with it. We may have to cut this into different videos or whatever, but this is really what I envisioned, just having this discussion. Yeah, at times I had a plan of what I was going to throw out there, questions, but we just let it flow, you know, and that's all we were aiming for with this. And I think we'll probably do more of these, but we need people to just see what it's like. They just see how we conversate as Christian men. We're not up here acting, perfect, and because they believe everybody in church is perfect. So when we make a mistake, they love. Oh, how do yeah,
they love to drag you.
Right. Oh, they love to do that. And so we're just letting you know we are normal people, normal young men with normal lives, and there's more. I mean, there's more depth to us beyond even what you just heard in this brief moment. But again, thank you, brothers, for taking this time to join us for, I guess, our first episode of CHRISTalk. This may be a podcast.
CT.
I don't know. But it's been a great time, and I thank you, brothers. Thank you so much. And let's get ready for worship. Let's go back into it, okay? All right. God bless. Amen.